and Tehran. Iran is looking at ways of providing limited connectivity to approved individuals and entities amid a continued state-imposed internet shutdown, and with a tiered access model currently being offered that experts have said still undermines the digital rights of Iranians. And President Masoud Pezeshkian on Wednesday announced the creation of a new entity to review internet coverage in the country, named the Specialized Headquarters for Organizing and Guiding Iran's Cyberspace, and with First Vice President Mohammad Reza Aref, a relative moderate, appointed as its head. And as Israeli attacks in Lebanon continue despite a ceasefire, the United States is hosting the third round of talks between Lebanese and Israeli officials. Hezbollah opposes the meeting in Washington. And US President Donald Trump returns to Beijing after 9 years to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping. The trade war, conflict in Iran, and rising fears over Taiwan shape the talks. With global tensions mounting, can the two leaders find common ground, or will rivalry push the world further into crisis? In this episode, and France coach Didier Deschamps has assembled a World Cup squad with formidable attacking talent led by Kylian Mbappe, while rewarding goalkeeper Robin Risser following his breakthrough season with a call-up for the Showpiece tournament. Deschamps, who guided France to World Cup glory in 2018 and will leave after this tournament, included few surprises in his announcement of the 26-man squad on Thursday. And OpenAI is so frustrated with Apple over a ChatGPT integration that failed to deliver the subscribers and prominence it expected that the company is now actively exploring legal action against the iPhone maker, Bloomberg News reported Thursday. And, citing people familiar with the matter, according to Bloomberg, OpenAI has enlisted an outside law firm to work through its options, and which could include sending Apple a formal breach of contract notice without necessarily escalating to a full lawsuit, at least not immediately. And any legal move would likely wait until after the conclusion of OpenAI's ongoing trial with Elon Musk. And Richard Socher has been a major figure in AI for some time, best known for founding the early chatbot startup U.com, and before that, his work on Imaginet now, and he's joining the current generation of research-focused AI startups with Recursive Superintelligence, a San Francisco-based startup that came out of stealth on Wednesday with $650 million in funding. And Socher is joined in the new venture by a cohort of prominent AI researchers, including Peter Norvig and Cresta co-founder Tim Shih. Together, they're working to create a recursively self-improving AI model, and one that can autonomously identify its own weaknesses and redesign itself to fix them without human involvement, a long-held holy grail of contemporary AI research. And Yuri Veltman was tense. He's the national field director for Standing Together, an organization of Jewish and Palestinian peace activists, and who had gathered to resist the tens of thousands of far-right Jewish marchers heading for occupied East Jerusalem's Old City. He had reason to be worried. Jerusalem Day, and marked by Jewish Israelis every year to celebrate the 1967 capture and subsequent illegal occupation of the city, and has become an opportunity for thousands to be bussed in from across Israel and the occupied West Bank to participate in the Flag March, where they maraud through the Old City and attack Palestinians as well as Jewish peace activists. And Palestinians from outside the Old City were not allowed in by police. And more than 40% of Sudan's population is facing acute hunger, according to a report by a global hunger monitor, the 3-year civil war having created one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Nearly 19.5 million Sudanese people are facing such dire circumstances, the United Nations-backed Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, said on Thursday. And the administration of United States President Donald Trump has pledged an extra $1.8 billion in humanitarian funding to the United Nations, but the amount announced on Thursday remains far short of past U.S. commitments to humanitarian aid, which totaled as high as $17 billion in fiscal year 2022. And On Friday, Jerome Powell's term as chair of the United States Federal Reserve Board of Governors will come to a close after months of tension between the White House and the central bank, and as US President Donald Trump pushes for more aggressive interest rate cuts. Powell's term ends on May 15, and he will be succeeded by Trump appointee Kevin Warsh, who served on the central bank's board of governors from 2006 to 2011. And Powell will continue on the board as a governor after stepping down as chair.
That Israeli ultranationalists marching through Jerusalem's Old City chanted death to Arabs, and may your villages burn during the annual Jerusalem Day parade. As many Palestinian residents stayed indoors and shuttered their shops, tens of thousands of Israelis, many of them teenagers and young adults, take part each year in the march, which Israeli authorities say celebrates the reunification of Jerusalem after Israel captured East Jerusalem during the 1967 war. That short-form video is a format that's built for mobile. These vertically oriented videos are designed to fit the shape of a smartphone. But according to YouTube, this kind of content has become quite popular on the big screen. It seems counterintuitive, but the data is hard to argue against. YouTube viewers watch over 2 billion hours of YouTube Shorts, the platform's clips that run up to 3 minutes on TVs each month. The living room is YouTube's fastest growing screen, and the Shorts experience is further helping connect viewers with the world's most active creator community from the comfort of their couch, said Kurt Wilms, YouTube's Senior Director of Product Management for YouTube on TV. We've found that audiences increasingly want to watch their favorite content on the biggest screen at home, whether it's long-form content, a podcast, or a short. Silicon Valley's token maxing error now has its own hardware. A new open-source project brings your Claude Code utilization stats into a tiny desktop dashboard, allowing AI power users to keep an eye on their usage. Sure, you can track Claude Code usage directly in the terminal using commands or other external tools and apps, but that's not as fun as seeing a pixel art version of the Claude sprite dance on a screen before showing at-a-glance token usage info, is it?
And Noor Airways has issued a clarification statement rejecting recent reports regarding the airline's leadership as it continues preparations to enter Pakistan's aviation market. In an official statement shared by the airline, Noor Airways said reports circulating about its leadership were inaccurate. The company stated that the airline was being developed and managed by experienced commercial aviation and airline industry professionals.
Before demanding $1 billion and a wife from Turkey in April 2026, Uganda's pro-Israel army chief Muhoozi Kainerugaba made a series of social media posts in 2022, wishing to marry Italy's current Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. French newspaper Le Monde reported at the time. In earlier widely reported remarks, Kainerugaba suggested offering 100 Anko cows to Italy in exchange for marrying Meloni, and made additional statements that included references to taking military action toward Rome if his demand wasn't met.
And Islamabad. The government on Thursday said that IMF-mandated asset declarations of civil servants would be made publicly accessible in a redacted form to ensure both transparency and personal privacy. The declaration of government officials' assets is required under IMF governance and corruption-related benchmarks. And Islamabad, May 14. PPP chairman Bilawal Bhutto Zardari on Thursday said that the government had not contacted him or his father, President Asif Ali Zardari, regarding a constitutional amendment. His remarks came amid media reports about the government's intention to have the 28th constitutional amendment passed by Parliament. And a new type of giant long-necked dinosaur, twice the size of a Tyrannosaurus rex, has been identified by scientists from remains dug up in Thailand. The Nagatatan, the largest ever dinosaur found in Southeast Asia, weighed 27 tons, as much as 9 adult Asian elephants, and measured 27 meters, 88 ft in length, longer than a Diplodocus. Like that dinosaur, it belonged to the sauropod family of long-necked herbivores.
That Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has called on fellow BRICS nations to condemn what he called violations of international law by the United States and Israel. That, as the war in the Middle East and the related fuel crisis dominate the two-day gathering in the Indian capital, New Delhi, Araghchi accused the United Arab Emirates, a US ally, on Thursday of direct involvement in military operations against Iran. That, in a rare moment when Iranian and Emirati officials have been in the same room since the US and Israel's war on Iran began at the end of February.
And Mariam Nawaz has announced that electric buses will be introduced in all 148 tehsils across Punjab as the provincial government expands its public transport network. In a statement, the Punjab Chief Minister said electric buses would be provided across the province to improve public transport facilities and modernise urban mobility infrastructure.
That the Israeli government has said it is taking the extraordinary step of suing the New York Times after the newspaper published an article detailing rape allegations by Palestinian detainees against Israeli forces. Israel's Prime Minister's office made the announcement 3 days after the release of the article by longtime New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof, which was based on the accounts of 14 male and female Palestinian victims. That Yemen's internationally recognized government and the Houthi group have signed a United Nations-backed agreement in Jordan to exchange more than 1,600 detainees. That marking the largest prisoner exchange since the country's civil war began in September 2014. Under the accord, the Houthis will release 580 prisoners, including 7 Saudis and 20 Sudanese, while the government will release 1. That 100 Houthi prisoners, Houthi official Abdul Qadir al-Mu'tada said in a post on social media on Thursday.
And Cuba has been hit by worsening power outages after the island's communist government said fuel reserves had run out. As rare protests erupted in neighborhoods around the capital, Havana, large parts of eastern Cuba were plunged into darkness on Thursday in the latest round of nationwide electricity shutdowns, while demonstrations over the blackouts broke out in western areas near Havana.
That US President Donald Trump returns to Beijing after 9 years to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping. Their trade war, conflict in Iran, and rising fears over Taiwan shape the talks. With global tensions mounting, can the leaders find common ground, or will rivalry push the world further into crisis? In this episode, that Iraq's new Prime Minister, Ali al-Zaidi, has been sworn in with only a partial cabinet after lawmakers failed to reach a consensus on key postings, including interior and defense. The Prime Minister and other ministers who secured parliamentary confidence took the constitutional oath of office on Thursday, according to the official Iraqi news agency, INA, formally assuming their duties. That earlier this week, hackers hijacked several open source projects used by dozens of companies and pushed updates designed to spread malware. This is the latest in a string of recent so-called supply chain attacks targeting software developers and their projects. That on Wednesday, OpenAI confirmed that 2 employees had their devices impacted by this attack. But after an investigation, the company said in a blog post that it found no evidence that OpenAI user data was accessed, that our production systems or intellectual property were compromised, or that our software was altered. That Cerebras raised $5.5 billion in its IPO on Thursday, pricing shares at $185 Wednesday evening, way higher than its range, 115 to 125, later raised to 150, 160, even as it increased the size of the offering to 30 million shares. And pre-market trading indicates that shares are going to open with a giant pop as retail investors bid up the price to grab them. We'll update this story after trading begins.
And the Punjab government has introduced a revised penalty and point deduction system for traffic violations across the province under the amended motor vehicle regulations published in the Punjab Gazette on May 7, 2026. Under the new penalty structure, overspeeding fines range from Rs. 2,000 for motorcycles and three-wheelers to 10,000 for heavy transport vehicles, while 4 penalty points will also be deducted. And Pakistan has successfully raised RMB 1.75 billion, equivalent to about $250 million, through its first ever panda bond issuance in China's onshore capital market, marking the country's debut sovereign borrowing in Chinese yuan. The 3-year fixed rate bond attracted strong investor demand, with total bids exceeding RMB 8.8 billion, or roughly 1.26 billion dirham, resulting in an oversubscription of more than 5 times the offered amount. And France's health minister said Thursday that 26 people in France identified as close contacts of hantavirus cases linked to the MV Hondius cruise ship had tested negative for the illness. Dutch authorities also confirmed that all people who arrived in the Netherlands on evacuation flights from the ship this week have tested negative.